Well, it's that time of year again, folks. Christmas is coming, the geese are getting fat. Won't you please pull some lipstick from the old man's hat? Yeah, I know. And it's not really fair to do this to people, but this is the topic of the year, certainly, as we end the year. And so I want to introduce you to an advertisement from J&B Scotch, although it's the Spanish distributor, I guess, of J&B Scotch. And like all good Scotch commercials, it appeals to the manly virtues of, hard driving cowboys who, at the end of a long day of roping cows on the range, and fighting off Indians with pistols and stuff, you come home and relax with a nice Scotch. It's a crazy long commercial. It's 3 minutes. And I really thought I would find a way to cut this down, but I don't think you can get the full effect unless you get subjected to the entire 3 minutes. The nice thing about the internet is if you want to skip ahead during this show, you can. But here's how the latest Christmas ad for J&B Scotch in Spain unrolled.
¿Vais a venir? Pues claro, estupendamente. Aquí estamos.
Be the face I can't forget, a trace of pleasure or regret, maybe my treasure or the price I have to pay. She may be the song that summer sings, maybe the chill that autumn brings, maybe 100 different things within the measure of a day. The beauty or the beast, maybe the famine or the feast, may turn each day into a heaven or a hell. She may be the mirror of my dreams, a smile reflected in a stream. She may not be what she may seem inside her shell. Survive the way and wherefore I'm alive, the one I'll care for through the rough and ready years. Me, I'll take her laughter and her tears, for where she goes I've got to be. The meaning of my life is
Okay, so guys, my very first thought is anybody in Spain who used to drink J&B Scotch will no longer ever touch this stuff ever again. That's my first thought, right? Is once again, it's like the Gillette ad, right? Where it's like, we need to stop being such toxic men. We need to stop beating up women. Gillette is the razor for the soy generation. And it's like, what are you doing? Are you insane?
It's worse than the Gillette ad, Bill, because people will think that drinking J&B Scotch makes that happen to them.
Well, but seriously,
That's right.
it's also it's as similar to the NFL and the NBA and all that woke stuff, right? It's like you know who your audience is, and so the thing I'm actually interested in is what's driving the pressure for a company to produce an ad like that. And by the way, I suspect that ad would probably go over better in America than it will in Spain, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
So clearly, and we can fold Disney into the mix and their whole, we're going to have trans characters dominate and queer characters dominate. It makes you wonder what is driving this. And I have a theory, which I'll get to in a minute. But Steve, you got any insight into this? I mean, you're a Scotch drinker. Does that make you want to go out and buy some J&B?
Hang on.
And then lipstick up.
I've got a bottle of Scotch right here, and I got to tell you, we're taping this at 12:43 in the morning. And if I still had a Scotch glass here on my desk somewhere, like I did a couple of days ago, I'd be pouring myself one right now. By the time we get to the end of this segment,
I kind of want to have that ad end with like this commercial brought to you by Jack Daniels, right? I mean, that's really what you want.
I might be drinking straight from this bottle before we get to the end of the segment. We'll see how it plays out. I know Vodka Pundit is the name of my blog, but that's because it worked as a blog name. I've always been more of a Scotch drinker. And when I was trying to come up with a blog name, I wanted something that was newsy, but a little silly. And I was thinking, well, okay, I could do something alcohol themed. Scotch Pundit. I'm a Scotch drinker, but that sounded either stuffy or about Scotland. It didn't really.
Or you had to do it you had to do it like groundskeeper Willie, right? The whole thing.
That didn't work. And I came up with Vodka Pundit, which sounded a lot like Insta Pundit, which was going to be the format I was going to follow. So that's how that happened. There is there are a lot of whiskeys out there from a lot of countries and a lot of states, but there is a mystique that surrounds Scotch. I think part of it is because Scotland is such a rugged, manly part of the world. And part of it is the fact that because of all these different little microclimates you get in mountainous areas, I know I live in one, you have a variety and a complexity in Scotch that you don't necessarily find in whiskeys from other places. And I'm not putting down.
Can I add one thing to that? Because I think one of the things also, here's me lecturing Steve about alcohol, but I think one of the reasons that Scotch is a different drink than everybody is because Scotch is the only one of the hard liquors I can think of that you are expected to just sit there and drink straight, right? Nobody just sits there and drinks a cup of vodka or, almost all of those other things are mixed drinks. But you sit there at a Scotch fireplace. You got your Chaucer in one hand. You got your Fez on your hat. You got your satin evening robe on. Yeah, your ascot, right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But there doesn't have to be anything stuffy about Scotch either. That my current favorite daily one, this Jura 10-year-old, it's not expensive. It's about $40 a bottle. It's a steal. It's the best thing going.
It's a manly drink, right? That's the worldwide. That's the worldwide opinion of Scotch. Is that's what men drink.
And about that mystique. I kind of started drinking Scotch by accident when I was 25, 26 years old. My grandmother was coming to visit from St. Louis, so I bought a bottle of Scotch. I had no idea what I was doing, so I just bought Chivas because I recognized the label from when I was a kid. She comes to Colorado. She can't handle the elevation. She doesn't drink anything. So I start drinking the Scotch, and I go, oh, my. oh, I like this. And they say it's an acquired taste. I acquired it the first time I tasted the stuff. And about a year later, David Mamet, the playwright, screenwriter, movie director, one of my favorite writers of the 20th or 21st century, wrote an article for, I think it was Playboy, about Scotch. And in the intro to this article, the opening of this article, he talks about watching old movies when he was a little kid, movies from the 30s and 40s, and alcohol had this mystique, this romanticism about it that when he started drinking as a teenager, he never understood. He was, drinking screwdrivers or whatever. But the moment he had his first sip of Scotch, he finally understood what they were selling in all of those old movies. It all came together for him in his first sip of Scotch. And I related to that so much because something similar had happened to me. I grew up on old movies. I totally understood where he was going with that. To take that mystique, that thing that goes back for a couple of centuries now. And to just blow it out of the water on a 3-minute ad selling your mental illness of the year fad, heads at whatever J&B's Spanish division is called have got to roll, but I doubt they will.
And the grandfather in this, is like he's portrayed as such a normal guy, right? He's not flamboyant. He's not singing show tunes, And at the end of this thing, I almost thought this tagline was going to come up and it was going to say, "Live the lie," and it's actually what's the word I'm looking for? It's disturbing. It's a disturbing thing to see, right? And I don't know about you. My dad was a Canadian club drinker, which I occasionally would swish in my mouth on his instructions because of toothache, which numbed the pain for a good 40 seconds. But first time I ever had single malt Scotch, I was probably in my 40s. And I suddenly realized, so that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So my first reaction to single malt Scotch was, my God, this is absolutely fantastic. My second reaction is, I got to run to the drugstore and get some mascara right now. and
J&B and Sephora.
So why? Do you have a take on this, Scott? Because it's not just Scotch. It's not just them. It is a full court press in the culture now.
A couple of things. When I first started watching the commercial, and Grandpa reaches for the handbag and sees the shiny, lipstick container and pulls that out, I thought, she shouldn't leave him alone when he's this far advanced in Alzheimer's. He's gotten into her purse and he was like a child. He pulls out the lipstick and he starts putting it on like he was a 3-year-old who had seen mommy doing something and now he was going to do it, So that was kind of weird. At first I literally thought this guy has lost his marbles. So I didn't know where they were going with it. The other thing I think is that the advertisers here are clearly trying to take an old man product and make it more palatable for a younger generation. And like so many companies do these days, they think they can do that by kind of making a virtuous political statement where they're going to connect. Not that everybody in this generation is transgender, but it's seen as a badge of honor if you're accepting and embracing of that kind of situation. And so and
if you're selling soy milk, this would be a fine idea.
Well, no, see, these are young people making these ads for young people, and if it's not young people making these ads, it's old people making ads for what they think young people will want to see. In reality,
it's old. It's yeah.
You know what I was?
It's young
when I
people
was
convincing
little,
old people that this is what you need to do.
When I was little, maybe my grandparents, they were both Scotch drinkers, would send me back to the living room to grab their drink back to the dining room to grab their drink off the table and bring it to them in the dining room or the living room if they'd forgotten it. And I could always tell which glass was whose because my grandmother's had the lipstick on it. Well,
now it gets confusing. But anyway, I think there's an angling for a younger demographic here, and it's probably you're probably right. It's done by older guys who think that's how you connect. Now, in reality, there are a bunch of young guys who are in that core J&B Scotch drinking, hearty man kind of market that they're ignoring now. In fact, they've decided to just flip them off and be gone with them because they're trying to go for something else. They're going for the applause of, at the Clio Awards. They're going to try to get their fellows in Hollywood to acknowledge them for what they really are, which is incredible storytellers who could have written a blockbuster movie, but decided to concentrate that down into 3 minutes of this little virtue signal. And I think it also, there are a couple of other things at play here. They want to say, this is, in a sense, they're saying this is not your grandpa's Scotch, but instead of saying it's not your grandpa's Scotch and throwing grandpa overboard, they decide to bring grandpa on board. They decide to bring him into the new generation. I think their core market, people who are troubled like this, probably drink more than average. I'm not saying everybody who drinks is troubled. I'm just saying if you're troubled, you may drink more than average. And then finally, I think maybe when you get the family gathering together and you know that Andy, who's now Anna, is going to come in lipstick and his cute little page boy haircut, I think maybe you need a few drams to be able to get through that dinner.
See, here's the thing too, right? It's a long commercial, and for most of it, you think, okay, so Grandpa's going to come out and he's going to get accepted. And the people who are defending this kind of stuff says it's not grooming. That's a slur. That's a slander against us. Well, you got a scene there where the old man is putting the makeup on this young kid, right? And it's the young kid who is the one who comes out for the transformation. And all of a sudden, without any warning whatsoever, you got this traditional Spanish family sitting down for a traditional Spanish Christmas, and Grandpa comes out, and here's presumably his grandson made up as a girl, and the mom starts tearing up. Everybody starts tearing up, when in reality, she would grab the broom and start screaming, Madre de Dios, and start just, she'd have an absolute meltdown. And those shots of this old man putting the makeup on this young man, I don't consider that to be an accident.
That's really creepy.
And it is really creepy. And the stuff that's being shown to our kids here in America is really creepy. It's so creepy that you sometimes external forces can force people who are not only not natural allies, but have often been at each other's throats into an alliance. Just you wake up one day, it's like, oh, hey, we're seeing more and more and more gay people coming out against this kind of thing. Yep. And now especially we're seeing women who are saying, so look, I'm not a chest feeder. I'm not a birthing person. I'm a woman, and the pushback is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. I personally feel that the fundamental psychological driver behind this whole movement is that the progressives have to make people agree that if you believe something is true, then it is automatically true. It's transmogrification. It's just like, the second you say you're a woman, you are a woman. That's what they say.
Well, the moment of honesty, Bill, in this was the ending where they had the title on the screen, and I just got a glimpse at it. But in Spanish, it said something about the magic of Christmas. And I'm like, that's right. This is magical thinking. This is thinking that if you put a little lipstick on, all of a sudden, you're a different person. Or you're the true embodiment of the one you always were on the inside. Like it's a fantasy. And the family in this picture comes around and says, yes, we would like to support you in your delusion. Now, I think it's one thing to say, we love our kids no matter what they do.
Absolutely.
But it's a different thing to say, yes, we would like to be part of your little fantasy world that is harmful to you personally and mentally, and now we're going to enable it.
And there's right at the end, the ultimate cringe moment is right at the end where the young transformed boy child, girl child now, sits down and he looks across the table to Grandpa, and Grandpa's got his little scotch. It's almost like a little moment, like we'll be doing more of this in the future, and I see this stuff and I'm just rendered speechless by it. I've been watching a lot of videos of guys reviewing TikToks and stuff, and the theme that I keep hearing from sane people is, look, your life is your life. I have no desire to tell you how to live your life. Consenting adults, do whatever you want to do. That's fine. But, and furthermore, because I'm a decent guy, I'm more than willing to call you by, if my Aunt Bob becomes my Aunt Betty, then I'll say, hi, Aunt Betty, how are you? This is the general theme of where it seems like the sane people are. But you have just taken this way too far. If you ask me to be nice and use your pronouns, okay, but they're not stopping there. They're not stopping at, we would like you to help us. We would like you to play along with this fantasy. What they're really saying is, you will believe that this fantasy is true. You will believe that if you say you are a woman, you are a woman. A Supreme Court justice, a sitting Supreme Court justice, was asked if she could define what a woman is, and she said, "I'm not a biologist." Right? That's where we are now. Really, if you think about it, it's almost I can't think of an example of a clearer division of humans than your sex, right? There's no barrier greater than that in terms of crossing, because skin color is just a relatively simple melatonin increase, right? You're talking about completely different biologies, and the insistence that you believe that this is real, and you don't just get to be nice and polite about it. You have to not only accept it as real, you have to celebrate it as real. This is connected to a much larger philosophy, and it is the philosophy of magical thinking, that if you believe something is true, then it's true. If you believe that you're being oppressed, it's being oppressed. It creates legions of victims among people who might not otherwise be victims. And I know this is strange because I had not heard this until yesterday or the day before. But among the many byproducts of this, if you take it to its conclusion and you start doing bottom surgery, is it renders those people sterile for life. And I figured this out when I heard Rachel Levine talking about transitioning, and Rachel Levine saying, "Well, I transitioned over 10 years, and I'm sure if I'd been a kid today, I would have done it much sooner. But I'm actually kind of glad that I did it when I did, because otherwise I wouldn't have my children." The children that you fathered, you mean?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say, Bill, one final thing. When you get done shaving your loins with a Gillette razor, the J&B Scotch makes a great aftershave.
Okay.
I recommend that to all the viewers who like that commercial.
I was going to add something more, but I can't top what Scott just did, so I'm going to shut up.
I never thought I would say that. I never thought the words would come out of my mouth, but here they are. You want me to drink Scotch straight up? What kind of a pussy do you think I am?